Today on Behind the Label, John Varvatos. Meet the maverick of menswear. See how this Detroit native became the master of red carpet style. Plus, find out why Varvatos' newest boutique has taken New York City by storm. All next.
John is going to give you a cut that's going to be flattering. You're going to look rich. You're going to look like you have some self-esteem. You're going to look like you belong in the place.
The guy is just really great at finding a classy way to be a rock star.
John Varvatos. He's one of the kings of American menswear. In less than a decade, he has built a multi-million-dollar man empire that includes fragrances, accessories, and suits loved by Hollywood's hottest hunks. And Varvatos has garnered 2 CFDA awards for his edgy, elegant collections that are sold worldwide. Not bad for a rocker kid from small-town Michigan.
Was there a defining moment in your childhood that said, I want to be in fashion?
You know, it really didn't play out that way for me so much. What really connected me with the whole fashion thing was music. I grew up in the Detroit area. It's a music, breeding ground between, rock and roll and Motown and blues and jazz. And when I was 8, 9, 10, whatever, watching those acts on Ed Sullivan, the British invasion kind of coming over, there was something about the way they dressed. And I really loved the whole connection between fashion and rock and roll. I never was going to be a rock star, never thought about being a rock star, but I always wanted to look like one.
How would you describe your aesthetic for the brand?
Simple. Simply, it's simple. It really is, it's very much my own personal sensibility, and there's a vintageness to it, but it also lends very much a modern sensibility as well. And it's a lot of how I've always dressed. It's a kind of an eclectic mix of ideas. It's not a uniform. I mean, like Steve McQueen was my icon when I was young, and his sense of style was very simple. Somehow he always looked amazing, and he was an amazing looking guy, but he pulled it together in a very simple, amazing way. Most guys want to look masculine. Straight, gay, whatever it is, they want to look masculine.
What I like about John is that the aesthetic is a little rougher, it's washed, it's a little frayed, and still perfectly civilized and tailored.
Menswear is a very hard thing to make exciting because most men know what a suit looks like, they know what a blazer looks like, and it takes a certain talent to be able to make that exciting. And John Varvatos is one of those talented people.
When you go to design a collection, where do you start?
Yeah, it starts someplace different every season. It could be something as simple as walking down the street. It could be hanging out at a museum and you're looking at architecture or colors or whatever. I'm doing flea markets and you see one piece, and it could be a women's handbag, and you see the way something was laced on a handbag from the 50s, let's say. And you love the way this, and might have even been a repair. Mm-hmm. And you love the way it was done, and you say like, wow, that could be a great way to finish the cuff of a jacket or the hem of a pant or the waistband or a pocket or whatever. And so nothing to me is all that literal. It's kind of how do you take these little ideas and blow them out into something bigger. And then there's that whole rock and roll element of it that, definitely has a influence on me every single day. Most guys have a little bit of rock and roll in them, or they want to live a little bit of the rock and roll thing.
So it's no surprise that when it comes to finding inspiration for his cutting-edge designs, John likes to take a spin through his favorite record store.
So when you walk in, what inspires you, the music or style?
Oh, it's totally music when I come in here because it's a big turn on. It's like, and I'm like a kid like in a candy store because I'm immediately like checking to see what they have up on the walls that's new. You look at these old Verve records, which was an old blues label, and you just see this kind of old mood here. There's something really inspiring to me about the tone and the color.
If I were to name names, Robert Plant, David Bowie, people who have definitely had a mark on style, what have they done for you in terms of design?
There's been some influence there for sure. I mean, Led Zeppelin in the early 70s when they were really dressing up, and David Bowie has always been a bit of a music style icon. The Who were always a big influence on to me. They mix kind of like mods with a little bit of hippiness as well. So, you know, those are definitely some of the images that are on my walls.
But you're not somebody who says, Bowie did this, I'm going to do this.
No. We're taking little references and we're taking them to either using them in another way, in a different way, or it's just a touch. We never do anything literal, because again, for me, that's not, as a designer, that's not so exciting to try to make everything look like somebody else already did it.
In 2005, Varvatos took his love for iconic rock style to a new level when he launched a groundbreaking advertising campaign.
Tell me where the idea came from for the ad campaigns, which you've been doing for the last 5 seasons.
All of our advertising for the first, I'd say 3 years in our business, was very romantic, and we got a lot of accolades for it, including from other designers on how beautiful it was. But I also felt when I picked up a magazine, there was a lot of other beautiful kind of romantic ads in there as well. And I figured that I needed to do something that was really me and that I could own. And so I felt like there was something with music that I could really do, but I also know that a lot of other people played in that genre over time. And so I wanted to do something that was really legitimate. The people in the ads were super iconic.
So you're talking about Iggy Pop, Slash, Cheap Trick.
Yeah. It was really about who they were. It was caught in the moment. When you think about Iggy, I mean, he's the godfather of punk. When you think about Alice Cooper, he's the godfather of shock rock. There's a little rebelliousness and a little bit of a bad boy to each one of the people that we've shot over time. What was interesting is that how we even got connected with those guys is that we don't pay them a lot of money. We don't give them a lot of clothes. They like what we do. They were shoppers in our stores already, and they're very particular. They have their own look. I mean, Slash has his look. Putting him in like a funky suit is not what he generally wears, but he loved what it was, and he actually wanted it afterwards because it brought a different sensibility there, but it still was very much Slash.
But you're not going to say, Slash, could you mind taking off the hat, you know?
Yeah, and you're also not going to say, Slash, put this pink button down on as well, you know? Because it has to be something. So there's a part of what we do and a part of what they do that's somehow connected.
When the call came, John Varvatos wants you for the advertising campaign. Who got it and what did you guys say?
I thought it was a crank call.
It was a crank call. I made that call.
Oh, that was you?
In John's name, yes.
I have a face for radio and a body for the goodwill.
For the internet.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, he does magic. He does magic.
It looks like stuff that I've already worn. You go into the store and you put on the jacket and you go, I feel like I've had that jacket on for a long time. A little bit of ragged is good. I like elegantly ragged.
You know, it's kind of funny, like we have these ads and, you know, some of these icons that are involved are people that I grew up like, they were my icons. And now I'm like really good friends with them too, and it's kind of a crazy thing.
John Varvatos. He's the master of all things masculine and loved for his edgy twist on classic silhouettes. His chic collections can be found at top retail stores like Barney's and Bergdorf Goodman, as well as his own boutiques around the country. And his red carpet ready designs have won over celebs of all kinds.
A lot of my clients, Jim Carrey, Charlie Sheen, John Travolta, they all love John Varvatos' clothes because it's like always like the lapel is a little special, the pockets, the fabrics. It's always the big attention to a small detail, which is really important for guys because you don't want to be in clothes that are too over the top.
Who is the Varvatos customer?
He's a guy who's creative. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's just an artist or a photographer or an actor or a musician, but there's something in his inner being that's kind of creative. You know, we sell suits to a lot of guys that are business people and Wall Street guys, but he's a guy that wants to walk to a little bit different beat. He doesn't necessarily want to stand out like a sore thumb. He's a guy that likes to mix it up, and that's what I love to do. I like to mix it up. I like to mix the casual and the elegant together and constantly play around with new ways to do that.
And it's Varvatos' American style and commitment to comfort that make his threads a cool alternative to the high-concept creations of European menswear.
My husband is 6'5", and not a lot of the designers fit him, and so we love John Varvatos. He's sleek with not being too sleek. It's really clean lines. It's not flashy, and I don't love flashy clothes on a man.
A lot of fashion pieces could look as incredible and as innovative as possible, but if it's not comfortable, then you haven't really achieved what you're supposed to. And that's one of the things I enjoy about John Varvatos. It's very comfortable.
We live in a celebrity culture now, and you dress a lot of celebrities. You've done concert tours, you've done red carpet things. How important is the celebrity to the brand?
Probably less in menswear than womenswear, no doubt about it. When you're on the red carpet, very seldom does anybody ask anybody, what are you wearing when it's men's?
Right.
Very seldom. But there is something about just the connection that I think is important. It does add an energy level to it that you can't really describe. They're doing a shoot, it's a band, it's an actor, you know, they want to represent your clothes. And when they look like they feel comfortable in the clothes, it comes off looking great.
And although today John Varvatos has become synonymous with Hollywood glitz and glamour, his beginnings were much more modest. John's fashion journey began in retail in his small hometown outside Detroit.
Tell me about your early years. You worked in retail in Michigan.
I worked my way through school by working in a men's store. And it was a great way for me to be connected with clothes and, you know, get a lot of clothes at really reasonable prices. And also earn some money to pay for my tuition in school because my parents weren't able to help me out much there.
It's interesting for me because as a designer, you really got the best education by understanding retail. Do you think it helped you a lot?
Oh yeah, I mean, the sales and the business end of it as well. I mean, you really paid a lot of attention to what worked and what didn't work and why things didn't work.
But John really earned his style stripes in sales and eventually design at Ralph Lauren, where for over 15 years, he helped to build one of fashion's greatest empires.
John, how would you say the experience at Ralph Lauren helped you as a designer?
Oh God, you know, the first month that I was there, I felt like I learned more in that first month than I learned in my entire career. It was unbelievable. They were in the midst of creating something at that moment, which was lifestyle branding. There wasn't another lifestyle branded designer in the world at that point in time. Ralph kind of created this world. And through this lifestyle, you know, branding, he's created so many different worlds, which is really intriguing to me still to this day. And it's a kind of experience as a designer or as a salesperson or a business person, very few people ever really get to experience. There hasn't been another kind of meteoric kind of climb since that time.
But despite John's success in sales, it was the design side of the business that truly captivated him.
During your time at Ralph, you were sneaking off and taking classes at FIT. Why did you do that?
I'd already been spending a lot of time working in the different stores and spending time in the tailor shop and learning how to sew, but I really wanted to learn pattern making, and more than anything else, I wanted to learn how to illustrate with this fashion sensibility. My illustrations were very rough.
But it wasn't in your head, I'm doing this to be the next Ralph Lauren.
No, not at that time. This was just something that I just felt like I really wanted to do. I didn't have a real clear, driven path at that point in time.
Varvatos' creative skills quickly moved him up the fashion food chain. After Ralph Lauren, he moved to Calvin Klein, where he designed both the menswear collection and launched the trendy CK label. But despite his success with other companies, in 2000, John decided it was time to go out on his own.
What made you decide to start your own label?
When I started my company in 2000, there was a lot of uniformness out there at that moment. Some great stuff too. There were some great people leading the pack, like, you know, Jill Sonder and Helmut Lang, and Gucci was just coming into their own and that type of thing. This is '99 when I was really thinking about doing something. But there was also a lot of sameness between a lot of brands out there. In the other companies that I worked for, I didn't really love the uniform aspect of it well. I know that that works, and I know that a lot of people like to follow that. I was a little bit of a rebel from that. I wasn't about the uniforms. And I just really felt like it was time to do something that was a little different, that had a different sensibility, that was very masculine.
Today, Varvatos has created his own lifestyle brand that has expanded into accessories, fragrances, and his more casual Star USA line. He has also revolutionized the great classic of American footwear, Converse.
Back almost 7 years, 6.5 years ago, Converse called me kind of out of the blue. We had only been around for maybe a year and a half. and they asked me if I wanted to design a limited edition collection. And I always wore Converse from the time I was probably 4 or 5 years old. There was something very iconic about the heritage there, but we did a different twist with them.
You took the laces out.
That came about sitting in my design studio on a Sunday afternoon, and I had the laces out of the shoe thinking like, I always wanted to have these laces out of the shoes. How could I make this work? And seriously came about in about 5 minutes. I went over to our trim closet, cut a piece of elastic, sewed it in myself, and the next day I showed it to the Converse people, and they're like, I don't think we can do that in production. I don't think they're going to stay on the feet. Long story short, we figured out how to do it. And it really was a super exciting time for us because it also was received so well globally. It really kind of changed the whole complexion of that business, not only with us, but with Converse. And it's evolved into, 2 years ago, we launched an apparel collection for men and women. It's truly vintage looking, and everything has some little athletic touch to it. Even if it isn't truly athletic, it has some little touch to it.
But Converse never had done ready-to-wear or clothing at all.
No. And so it was a really fun concept to work on because I had to paint a new portrait. I created something that was a little bit of a fairy tale world based around sport and vintage and cool, iconic people, but pieces that were really believable and pieces that were really fun. And it just kind of took off.
John Varvatos. He's a rule breaker that pushes the boundaries of traditional menswear. And his most recent retail venture is equally as rebellious as his design approach. In a bold move, John took over the iconic downtown New York rock club, CBGB's, where bands like the Ramones and Blondie were first discovered. Inside this legendary venue, Varvatos opened his newest boutique and created a rock and roll shopping mecca.
John, your stores are in many different cities, Las Vegas, San Francisco, New York. Here we are sitting in what was CBGB's. Tell me a little bit about this project and why it was so special to you.
This project was really a labor of love, you know, something that it wasn't planned. The space had been open or empty for over a year before I even looked at it. But there was something within, seconds, 30 seconds that I really experienced in the space, which was there's still something here. There's an aura here. There's something living inside of here. And I really said to myself, like, okay, got to do something here. We're going to do this store.
But John's famed punk rock hub turned high-end retail space met with its fair share of flack.
Join the revolution! Save music in this town! Luxury retail is displacing music spaces!
A lot of controversy about you opening the store here. Tell me a little bit about the controversy.
First of all, this is such an iconic space. It holds a lot of dear memories to a lot of people that spent a lot of time here. And I think most of the controversy is based on not fact, but what people's perception is, and that some fashion guy came in here and opened up a store. But I think if they really spent a little time to see what we actually did with the space, and that it's not a big glossy Madison Avenue space, we've tried to be really, really sensitive to what's happening in the neighborhood and be very supportive of the neighborhood. And part of the thing was that we didn't push CBGB's out of here. I knew what was going to happen here. We could see the writing on the wall. It was going to be a bank. It was going to be a drugstore. They weren't going to preserve anything. At least what we've done is we've really created something where there's part of the history still intact here.
John maintained the integrity of the infamous space in his funky approach to the store's interior design.
When you started the design concept, what struck you first?
Well, I wanted to keep the walls intact. That was really the thing, all the graffiti's still here, all the original flyers and stickers and posters, and I really wanted to make sure that when you walked in here that you understood that the walls were going to talk to you. It was really meant to be at a little bit more of a place of discovery than a retail store. This particular space right here, we glass enclosed part of it only because we're just worried that people were going to peel away more of it.
Or add to it too.
Yeah, as well.
Now the furniture, you redid all this.
Yeah, we found old pieces and sprayed it and, put the prints on it. And there's not one, store fixture made for this place. It's all vintage racks, refurbished floors, all the antique rugs. They're all found pieces. And that's a fun piece, too.
This is incredible.
Well, if you remember at the last runway show, in the windows, we had the chandeliers. And they've been sitting in our warehouse, and I just had this idea about doing one big piece out of them, because they're not even that expensive, but when you put them all together, they look like something. And it turned out to be like a real conversation piece.
So this is where the original bar was?
Yep.
This is not the original bar?
No, this is a bar that came from an old New York City bar that was up on 44th Street, I think.
But you definitely wanted to keep the bar feeling where the bar was in the space.
Yeah, it wasn't even necessarily where it was, but we wanted a bar in the space because we wanted to have a little bit of a clubby atmosphere, especially since we're talking about having concerts and that. We needed to think about how we'd set up for that kind of thing.
Varvatos has created a rockers concept store where you can buy vintage audio equipment, memorabilia, and vinyl records of all kinds. It also boasts a movable stage where bands can come show their stuff. But selling clothes is still the focus, and Varvatos designed some punk rock pieces exclusively for the hipster downtown shoppers.
So we did these limited edition pieces, and like this one's like numbered like 18 of 24.
Wow.
So we made these specifically for the store. They're like hand done, they're all hand washed, that type of thing. It's really got a sexy, clean look to it. The skins are beautiful on it, and we only made 24 pieces.
Fantastic.
This boots is a good example of kind of, taking something from the past and, taking it to the future. We found a bunch of old military boots. We studded them and washed them so they really still have, an aged look to them, but at the same time, there's something really kind of special about them. And they're all one of a kinds. Every boot, everyone has a different look, a different pattern to it.
And is it punks that are buying? Is it rockers? Who is it?
It's funny. I think it's a little bit of everybody. Everybody from some really pretty young kids, because they're not that expensive, to guys my age that just want to have a little bit of that rock and roll vibe to them.
Varvatos' brilliant combination of renovation and preservation went on full display for a party honoring VH1's charity, Save the Music. This star-studded event featured CBGB's veterans and rock and roll icons who all came together to celebrate John and the legendary space.
When you first heard that it was going to be a store, what did you think?
Well, I thought, that sucks, but then I heard it was from John Varvatos, so then I thought, oh wow, that's really genius.
I think, someone like John is kind of like the glue to bring the survivors, if you will, of the whole CBGB era together and celebrate something like this, and it's for charity.
So I think it's a perfect seamless fit that John Varvatos moved in here. It preserves the holiness of this space a little bit.
I think he did this with a lot of respect and history. It's way better than a Starbucks, a bank, or a Nazi center.
I think he's really a rock and roller guy at heart, and he happens to make clothes.
The only thing I told him I'm looking for is in that second dressing room at the back, in the lower right-hand corner, is where I wrote my signature. And I said, if I don't find it, then I'm forever going to want a discount on that goddamn cologne, John.
We're not trying to be CBGBs. We're not trying to emulate CBGBs. We're just trying to, have a little bit of that piece preserved, that anybody that wants to come enjoy it, but we are trying to promote the future here, and the future of music through this store. Sometimes you have to reach back to move forward in life.
From saving a city landmark to adding a little rock into men's fashion, John Varvatos' bad boy instinct has made him a one-of-a-kind voice in American menswear.
When you look back on your days at Ralph, your early days, do you feel like you have achieved what you thought you would do or set out to do?
I'm a lot more driven today. I wasn't very driven at that point in time to necessarily achieve something other than I felt like, okay, I want to make a nice enough living that I can have a decent enough lifestyle. Because I grew up in a very humble household. We had a 3-bedroom little bungalow with 7 people in 1 bathroom for all the way through going into college. So that was kind of my goal, was just to be able to get a little bit beyond that.
You were married a few years ago and you have a baby on the way now. How do you juggle all of this?
I haven't figured it out yet. Totally. It's a crazy life. I think the world today is crazy anyway, but it's a crazy life, between all the brands and the stores and the collections that we do and everything. But in terms of personal, I don't need to do anything else. I'm super happy with my personal life, and my family life, my weekends in the country kind of thing. I don't need any more.
Where would you say you see the brand going?
You know, I want to keep focused on what I'm doing. I think, you know, the brand's been growing, you know, hugely over the last few years, and it's exciting to see it happen, but I want to focus on what made us successful, and what made us successful was great product that guys really want to wear, masculine product, but there's a lot to do yet to get that bar raised to the next level, to, you know, leave a little bit of a legacy, I think, in terms of as I, you know, grow older or, you know, pass on or whatever it is, that there's something that was important that lasted a long time, that my employees in my company can, you know, continue to grow in the company and feel like it's an exciting place to be and grow, and that they feel like there's, you know, it's never too high. You know, you can just keep reaching.
Perfection! Woo! Perfection, guys. Great job.
Living the dream, I would imagine, the expat dream.
I feel more free here than I do in the States.
If you're not happy with what you're doing, you should really think about it and not be afraid of change.
Nice place to live, don't you think?
Not bad.
Perfect, let's eat.
Sex, drugs, rock and roll and food. Today my guest, Anthony Bourdain. And everything is on the table.
I covered my shyness with a megalomania and exhibitionism. Some might even call it psychotic behavior.
I am actually your sous chef today.
Yes, I know. And it's something that I've wanted for years.
Ah,
the king of chefs.
I'm trying to translate and tell you something about who we are.
Bill Clinton sat for me as his last official portrait as president. I said to him, Mr. President, will you show me the love? One of his advisors actually said, Mr. President, whatever you do, don't show him the love. Larry King comes on and he holds up my picture and he says, this is disgusting.
Hi, I'm Peter Sarsgaard.
I've heard from reliable sources that you're the king of smoothies. I want to introduce you to Tabitha. When you came to me, I said, you've got to get rid of gluten.
You were not that nice about it. You were very, very firm. And I was so desperate to feel good that I would have done anything that you told me.